My hope is that this kid is still the quarterback at the University of Florida next year. I would hate to see him go somewhere else.
It's gonna suck to see him in a UM uniform next year.
I've talked to a lot of Gators fans already that have thought that game was at risk, that we were going to get that upset. And I know you guys said earlier that you guys thought the game was in control. I know you guys didn't think the game was in control. We were marching down a touchdown.
I think that Miami is going to run the table.
Then will they be a national title contender?
I don't really see title contender.
Miami's defense wasn't locked down.
This is no disrespect to Damon and Jalen. I love you guys. Fuck the University of Florida, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, welcome to the show. Miami wins the game 26-7. We're going to get in and debate this. We have 2 Miami panelists and 2 Florida panelists. This is a debate show where every Sunday after every college football Saturday, we're going to get panelists on from the 3 fan bases in the state of Florida, Florida State, Miami, and Florida, to debate what's going on with the programs and the future outlook as well. And if it's entertaining for you to watch fans debate like this in this forum, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. We're a new show, so click it on that subscribe button. It really helps support us, and it helps us to be able to continue to put out these videos every Sunday during the season. And if you disagree with any of the takes made today, we want to hear your opinion too. So please give us your take in the comments below. All right, so I want to introduce the panel today. We have 2 Miami panelists. We have Ryan and Trent. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to be back.
And we have 2 Florida Gator panelists. We have Jalen and Damian. Guys, thanks for joining today.
Yep, no problem.
To be back.
And my name is Christian. I'll be moderating today's debate. So boys, let's jump into it. Miami 26, Florida 7. It was kind of a weird game. I watched it on TV. I know Ryan and Trent were at the game, but it was a weird game for me because while Florida was having trouble getting anything going on the offensive side of the game, and Miami's dominating both lines of scrimmage, it felt like Miami should have been up by a lot more in the game, but it felt like in the second half it maybe should be 27-0, but somehow we're in the third quarter, going into the fourth, and it's 13-7 game. And it wasn't until 4 minutes left in the game where Miami scored to make it 20-7. Then UF goes for it on 4th down on their own 23-yard line again, and then Miami scores on the short field. They only punch it in on 20 yards to make it 26-7. So the score kind of makes it, if you just look at the score, it doesn't seem like it was close, but in reality, it actually ended up being a close game somehow. So I wanted to start with you, Trent, from the Miami side. There's a new standard developing at Miami as the seasons progress, which is to be one of the top teams in the country, if not the top team in the country, and to compete for a national championship. So with that comes a higher expectation, a higher standard. And after taking in last night's game, how the team played overall, did they live up to that standard that you had for them? And what are your big takeaways?
So this is a rivalry game. It's Miami, Florida. It's pouring rain for at least for a good chunk of that game. We knew that going into the game it wasn't going to be easy. As much shit we talk about Florida, we knew that they're a tough team, especially defensively. So this was a game that needed to be won in the trenches. Both teams couldn't really throw the ball. I think the rain played a part in that. And at the end of the day, Miami won in the trenches. And I think, against a good Florida defense, they were able to accomplish a lot on the ground. I think they had almost 190 rushing yards, I think is a big compliment to Miami and their offensive line and their running game. Yeah, obviously I would have liked to see more out of Miami's defense. I think in the first half they had an opportunity to kind of step on UF's throat. They had a lot of self-inflicted wounds, bad penalties that put them back. They could have been up easily 17-0 after the first half, but because of penalties and just mistakes, drop balls, bad throws, they couldn't do it, and they left the door open for UF, and we saw UF take advantage of that in the second half. And when you fail to put teams away and you give them life, those things happen. So that's what probably my most disappointing takeaway was from the game, is that they weren't able to put them away early. They dominated the entire first half, but the score didn't reflect that.
And who do you put that on? Do you put that on the coaching staff or the players? Or
yeah, I mean the penalties were uncharacteristic of what we basically had been doing all year. So I don't know if it's the coaches or just maybe it was a new game plan with new plays and they couldn't execute. It was the center that kept getting snap infractions, which I thought was weird, but it was the same. I think they had 3 snap infractions. They were costly, but at the end of the day, the defense looks as good as they've ever looked. They were winning up front. They didn't force any turnovers. I know like they scored at the end of the game and maybe in garbage time, but LSU only won by 10. And they had 5 interceptions. We didn't have a single interception or forced turnover, and we're able to take care of business. So I think the defense is as advertised so far. But yeah, the offense definitely the worst game of the season. You need to see more out of Beck. Again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say the rain played a factor in that. But the running game was potent. I was watching the highlights this morning. They were able to kind of almost do whatever they want for most of the game on the ground. So it's still a good one. Still a great one.
Ryan, I want to get your take on the game. You were there. You've been a long-time season ticket holder, long-time Miami Hurricanes fan, and almost a historian type of fan where you can pull stats from before you were born on the Canes. But you know about the Miami Hurricanes standard, which is to compete and win national championships. And obviously Mario's been building the program up, and the season has started on a really high note. Going into the game and then coming out of the game, what are your thoughts on how the team performed in terms of keeping that high expectation for the season? And did they live up to what you wanted them to do?
Absolutely. It's a tough rivalry game under the weather conditions and everything. What I liked about it, even though it was 13-7, relatively late, I didn't feel like it was a touchdown risk. So, we knew that we had the game because there were no big, long breakaway plays throughout the entirety of the game. So I was just happy that our defense has really turned that corner this season, and it gives us that good feeling on both sides of the ball up front. We were just wreaking havoc, and that's a great sign of team coming back to dominance and whatnot. So yeah, they lived up to it.
And did you have any concerns about Beck's performance in the game? Beck went 17 of 30, 160 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. On TV, they kept showing his face, and his face and his body language just seemed different than the first few games. In the first few games, he seemed in control, comfortable, confident, smiling. And then this game, that face was like the same face from Georgia a little bit, where he had some struggles. They ended up winning comfortably, as you mentioned, which is a great win, and credit to him and Miami for getting it done. But how do you feel about Beck's performance overall after the game?
I was okay with it. He's up against a very good defense, and it was a lot wetter out there as far as throwing the ball. The rain really played a big factor there. So we didn't have the opportunity to really open up that playbook and take long shots down the field. But, he wasn't making consistent, crucial errors, and he was managing the game well, did what we had to do. And we saw that the run game was cooking. So, didn't have to do too much himself. And sometimes you don't want the quarterback to be doing that hero ball stuff that could really cost us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He had the interception, but it was a great play by the defender. He really jumped in front of it, and that was a great play on him.
Yeah, former Miami commit, Cormani McLean.
I'll say one thing: if anyone knows how to scheme Carson Beck, it's the Florida Gators. For whatever reason, they know how to scheme Carson Beck. So I think the coaching staff, Mario and Dawson, kind of went away from that in the third quarter when you saw Florida making their way back. And then once they went back to the run game is when things kind of broke back open again and kind of do what we did well. So you have to credit Florida's defense. I think they zoned the hell out of Beck, and that caused problems. But once you finally realize, let's just keep running the ball, things kind of evened out and figured itself out.
Damien, I want to get your take. Obviously, you follow the Florida Gators program very closely and have for a long time. This has to be one of the worst offensive and quarterback performances that a Gator fan has witnessed, and coming out of the era of Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier. It's not what Gator fans like to see, obviously, and not what any fan would like to see. 141 yards of total offense. 80 of that 141 came from that one touchdown drive in the third quarter. And then they only had 61 yards on the other 9 drives. So credit to Miami's defense, but I think a lot of that was just self-inflicted. The offense just could not get out of their own way. 0 of 13 on third down. And DJ Lagway, 12 of 23 for only 61 passing yards. So I want to get your take on the game a little bit, but also big picture on your thoughts on Napier, because he is the offensive coordinator. He is the play caller. And so they always say the buck stops with you as the head coach, but even more with him because he's the guy in charge of the offense. So do you put this more on him? Do you put it more on DJ? And what are your overall thoughts about the game and moving forward for the program?
Yeah, man. So I would say, I agree with Ryan where he said even when it was 13-7, it really didn't feel like the result of the game was in question at all. And so I would say everything is symptoms of the same issue of Billy Napier's refusal to give up play calling. When Billy Napier was sold to the fan base, it was sold as an innovative guy that was like willing, look himself in the mirror and make the necessary adjustments. And that just has failed to be true. So like looking at the game kind of went as I expected. I expected Miami to be able to run the ball. Florida's down four rotational linemen, some of them starters on defensive lines. Expected Miami to be able to run the ball. I knew that Florida would come out and do the same exact plays. I knew they would come out, they would run first down, run second down, get behind the sticks. You're not taking any shots downfield. It's kind of like the same old thing. That very first drive, I was like, oh, this is going to be a long game watching this team on offense. Miami didn't have to think. They didn't have to react to anything. It's like, we know where this is going. And so you're killing them in the trenches because you know where everything's going. You don't have any risk of anything going over your head. Keep everything in front of you and just strike. It kind of just went as I expected in terms of the game. So that very first drive from Miami, my thoughts was, oh man, this is about to get ugly. From Mario Cristobal's personality, I'm like, okay, he's going to try and make this as ugly as he can. And it all goes back to Napier as the head guy, as the play caller. I don't put any of the onus on DJ Lagway. I just think that the offense is the offense. There's no innovation to it. I would say even like as an opposing fan, it would be hard to take anything away from a defensive performance for your team versus Billy Napier. I don't know what you can really take away from it. Everybody plays it the same way. So it's the same old story, man. It's like frustrating because you can see how immensely talented the team is.
Jalen, I want to get your take. So you were on the show last week and you said that your opinion is that the Gators should keep Napier, keep building with him, have him hire an offensive coordinator and trust in him. But you said that you think that that's not what the administration is going to do, that they're going to go ahead and pull the plug on him this year. Do you still feel the same way you felt last week about let's keep building with Napier, or are you starting to change your opinion a little bit on that? Also, I want to get your thoughts on the game overall too.
Honestly, at this point, I think that my feelings are probably more intensified after last night's game. I've always been okay, hey, I'm fine with Billy calling the plays at the beginning. At the beginning, it was cool. I think last night was definitely hey, this is your play calling at fault. A 5-star QB, Gatorade National Player of the Year, should not be throwing 12 of 23 or whatever his stat line was and having only 60 yards. That's a credit to bad play calling. I've never been the one to jump on Billy Napier, hey, okay, your play calling sucks or whatnot, or hey, maybe this was wrong at a crucial moment. People make mistakes, but that offensive game plan just looked disheveled. It didn't look like it knew what it wanted to do. You average 2.2 yards a play. You shouldn't be throwing below the sticks when we on a fourth down. We shouldn't be doing any of that. So it's really just the offense being anemic, and that goes back to Billy. Unfortunately, since you are the play calling, if I'm Scott Strickland or any of the Florida leadership, I will say, hey, we're going to hire the offensive coordinator for you. Take it out of his hands. Billy has all the pieces. We don't even have Dallas Wilson back. We did have a couple of D linemen out and stuff like that. But as far as offense, yeah, we might be missing critical pieces here or there that probably could help. But at the same time, you have these receivers that are pretty much would be studs at any other program. You have Vernell Brown, you have Trey Wilson, you have Sturdivant, who was pretty much a stud at UCLA. You should be able to scheme up offense that's able to generate yards and able to generate points. That should be the name of the game. That should have been the name of the game all summer. I'm not like last year before that, I wasn't too concerned about, hey, your play calling, because there was nothing strictly play calling wise that was like, hey, that stands out to me that this is the reason why we lost that game. There were a couple miscues here with penalties, maybe just miscues. Cool, we can get past those. Those happen in any given Saturday, but just the offense not being able to generate a point when our defense has only given up. At this point, I want to say it's y'all, because Miami had 2 rushing touchdowns, so probably like 3 touchdowns in 3 games, 3 passing touchdowns in 3 games, if that. So it's like we have the offense, the defense. It's always one or the other. No offense, no defense. Offense,
Never
defense.
never complimentary football.
Stick, I want to go to you. Shifting to Miami, they have a bye week this week, and then they have one of the biggest rivalry games in the Florida State Miami series, arguably in probably 20 years. If Florida State takes care of business next week against Virginia on a Friday night on the road, and Virginia actually looks pretty good this year, so no guarantee there. And Tommy Castellanos got hurt in the game yesterday. We don't, he hurt his leg. He's a running quarterback, so you don't know how that's going to affect his mobility and whatnot if he can go. But I want to get your opinion, Ryan, on your thoughts on how Miami matches up with Florida State, and also how you see the rest of the season playing out for Miami.
Well, McCain, so I know we're going to win, There's no doubt about that. I do think it'll be a close one, though. It'll be sort of like the Notre Dame type of score line, I won't give an exact score estimate, but I think it'll be close. It's the
like
two.
A 3-point game, 7-point
Yeah, it'll be
game.
one possession. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if our defense is really, able to turn it up in those clutch moments, when the game is close. We're going to see the offense as well, how they'll be able to respond. But yeah, that is, I didn't know about the injury to Castellanos. That could be a thing, but there's still some time, before we play. I think that Miami is going to run the table. That offensive line and defensive line, they're just lighting it up. And that's something that that just doesn't drop off. That's the thing foundationally. We've got a lot of linemen on offense and on defense. And you can just kind of drag and drop whoever you want. And we've been able to just pound teams up front.
So you said run the table. So you expect them to finish the regular season 12-0 this year?
Yes, sir.
And well, I will say if they win the Florida State game, they will probably be the number 1 team in the country, or number 2.
You were a historian. How can you say 12-0?
However many regular season games we got.
And you expect them to be, making a deep playoff run and in the national title conversation this year, Ryan?
Don't say it just because you're a fan.
It's a little far, down the line. But as far as the original question, I see so far all the games on the schedule. I feel pretty confident.
I love the coach speak answer there. Trent, I want to get your take on how Miami and Florida State match up, and does Miami go 12-0 if they do win that game?
First of all, before I get into Florida State, just going back to Florida for a quick second.
Yeah, of course.
This may be biased because I want Billy Napier to stay with Florida, but I think that there may be a little more. You may need to give the other teams that you've played a little more credit. I think there is a chance that you just played 3 playoff teams and 3 straight weeks.
That's a fact.
It's just you played a good group of 5 team that's probably going to represent the group of 5 in the playoff, a top 5 LSU team and a top 5 Miami team with defenses that are great. All 3 of those teams have good defense. So obviously this was the worst offensive performance that Florida put up throughout the season. They just got stumped, and I think PlayCon and Billy are a big part of that. But I think the sample size is small right now because you play 3 good teams. Once you play some, and it's tough for Florida's schedule considering all the teams you do have to play and all the great defenses you do have to play. Maybe once you see a middle of the pack defense, see how they want to play. It's extremely tough and difficult for a team, and of course they should have beat USF, but to play 3 straight potential playoff teams with very physical defenses, it's hard to get a gauge of how good your offense really is. Now, obviously they should have performed better, but I think you got to give a little more credit to the teams you played. That's all I'll say. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Jalen, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it is crazy because I 100% agree with that. We know start off we had the toughest schedule in the country, and obviously USF is a lot better, but it's really more so what the offense is actually doing when we play these teams, because every game we've been in, USF obviously we had control of that game. We should have won that game. LSU, we had opportunities to strike. Even with Miami, we scored a lot of, and I've talked to a lot of Games fans already that I've said hey, a lot of people thought that game was at risk, that we were going to get that upset. So I know you guys kind of said earlier that you guys thought the game was in control. I know you guys didn't think the game was in control when we were marching with down a touchdown. But the defenses are okay, but at the same time, if you can't generate an offense even with that, still a problem. It's still a problem because none of these defenses that we played are locked down. Miami's defense wasn't like locked down. They just had a lot of missed throws and stuff like that. So it's like you can see that it's us, not necessarily these defenses, which is the problem.
So like, not necessarily take credit away from Miami, but it's the same story that I've seen from Florida for 4 straight years now offensively. So like nothing blew me away from Miami or LSU, I would say. Like, and not to say that those teams can't make the playoffs or that they aren't going to be, 9+ win teams, but it wasn't for me. It just felt like the same symptoms of, hey, Billy Napier off as a play caller is just not successful. And so like, it wasn't to like kind of discredit Miami.
I want to,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, Damien. I want to just get you to address the comment you just made. Nothing blew me away about Miami, and then I want to go back to Trent to get his take on the Florida State game. So what do you mean, particularly when you say nothing blew me away when it comes to the Miami team last night?
I would say in the instance of it went how I expected. I expected them to be able to run the ball. They were able to run the ball. Nothing jumped off the screen at me. So I'm watching Miami's defense and they're making plays, but I also think it doesn't take a lot to game plan for Billy Napier's offense as a play caller. There is nothing that is a surprise at all to me within his offense.
That's a good point.
Nobody's open. Like if you look at the all 22 film, if your offense requires perfection, it's not a good offense.
I want to go back to Trent and get your take on the upcoming Florida State game, how you see the game playing out, and then also, does Miami run the table or do they drop a few games this season?
Ryan is a Miami historian, so he should know better than predict Miami would go 12-0. That's what I was getting at earlier. You don't ever say this team will go 12-0. Where have you been, bro? Florida State is
Somebody's got to say it.
Florida State's by far the most dynamic offense they're going to see all year. I don't think that's without question. My only question mark about FSU is the tape. They've only had one actual game this year. I think the Virginia game will say a lot about Florida State, which is a crazy thing to say because it's just Virginia. But
it is wild.
It's hard. I don't want to make too bold of a prediction because I just haven't seen Florida State play real teams yet outside of the Alabama game, which as we all know, they played a great game, but they've run up the score on two very inferior opponents since then. They look great. They look like Gus is just like dialing it up. They had 500 rushing yards against Kent State, and that would make any team nervous. I think we're going to find out a lot about Miami if they're as advertised. I think Jalen, Damon, we're going to see what kind of defense they played last week against Florida State. But it's all going to, again, I think Miami is as advertised up front. I think if they can limit the run, which I know it's USF, but USF was a big, can they stop the run on USF? Can they stop Byron Brown? Can they stop the run game? And Miami shut them down. So they've shut down every team they've played so far, with the exception of a couple drives from Notre Dame and one drive from UF. So I think Miami is in a good position to win the game. However, that is going to be a great game. It's a top 10 matchup. I'm sure game day will be there, and it'll be an absolute dogfight. So I don't want to give a prediction on that game yet. I need to see.
You have to give a prediction. You have to give a prediction.
It's not even a week before the game.
I know, but based on what you've seen so far, because you're not coming on until after the game's over, so I need to get your predictions so that when you come on, we can say, "Hey, you were right" or "You were wrong." So
I'm gonna pick Miami, but it'll be such a close game. I think it's gonna come down to who can get the last stop. Well, maybe one of those games. I think Miami wins by a field goal. I'm gonna give them a field goal. I can't see anyone blowing anyone out. I don't think it's gonna be that type of game. Both teams are at the confident they've been in years since FSU since 2023, Miami since 2001. So it's going to be a great game. The rest of the season, I'm not going to say they're going 12-0. They're bound to play Syracuse and let Fran Brown fucking win again. Fucking guy.
Syracuse is a dog.
But I could totally see Miami going 11-1, 10-2. Hopefully they don't go 10-2. Hopefully they go 11-1 and can find out their way into the playoff. But look, they've played as advertised. I can't knock them the way they played so far. They're 4-0 against a pretty decent schedule thus far, so I can't complain about them. I don't think they've shown any signs of going downhill or anything like that. They've played as advertised, so I like where Miami stands right now.
Damien, who wins the game, FSU or Miami? And by how much?
I got Miami by 10 points. I just think over 4 quarters, I think the lines of scrimmage are gonna show themselves. Like I said, Mario Cristobal can build an offensive line unit, and I think that's gonna be the difference, I think, in the game. I think the trenches are gonna be the difference over 4 quarters, and I think FSU right now is playing the best ball in the state, but also having a bye week, having 2 weeks to prepare for that game is giving me the idea to lean with Miami going into that.
Jalen, who wins, FSU or Miami?
I'm gonna give it to FSU, to be honest. Miami's trenches are strong. They're like, and that's part of the reason why we got killed last year by them, is because the trenches are just dominant. I really like that Florida State defensive front, and then Tommy, he has a weapon with his legs. Deuce is pretty big receiver. I'm gonna give Florida State in a field goal. I'm gonna give it to Florida State +3.
Okay. And then we'll stick with you, Jalen. Is Miami going to make the playoffs, and will they be a national title contender this year?
I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. The way the schedule is aligned, especially in the ACC, is makeable. I think they'll be in the ACC championship game. It just really depends on Florida State, Miami. I think the winner of that is going to be the one that's primed for the playoffs and getting ready to compete. The second one might slip in, but we just got to see.
Damian, is Miami a playoff team? Yes or no? And then will they be a national title contender?
I think right now, I would say I think they're going to be a playoff team. Like, I think 10-2, you get an ACC championship game berth. I think that'll get them into the playoffs. I don't really see title contender just yet, and I just say that because I kind of saw Dawson take his foot off the gas a little bit yesterday, and that's a bit concerning. So right now, I wouldn't necessarily say national title contender, but I do think what I saw, I think it can get them to the playoff with the schedule.
You have them 10-2. Trent, do you see them as a national title contender looking at the landscape of college football right now, as of right now?
What does contender even mean, you know? What does contender even really mean? I mean,
it just means, like, are they going to be not just a team that's like makes the playoffs and loses in the first round, but like, are they going to make a deep playoff run?
I have PTSD, so I'm struggling to say this, but I'm going to say yes, but only because of the Michigan archetype that was built in 2023. When you have a strong offensive and defensive line and a good defense, you can do a lot. So I think Miami has shown that thus far, and that can get them places just by having that. So that's the only reason why I'll say yes.
That record on file for later.
Hold on, since we're keeping records on file, shout out Alec. Week 2 had Gators going 10-2. Gave more respect to UF than UM, who had them going 9-3. Shout out Alec. Week 4, your take's already wrong.
So Ryan, just quickly, I want to just confirm, you see Miami as a national title contender, right?
Playoff for sure. As far as the national title, a lot of things still have to match up, lineups, matchups, depending on which bowl game it is that we get into. Geographically, we've played better in certain regions than others at that time of the year, so I'll still give us that hope of being a deep contender,
So yes.
A deep run, yes.
Got it.
National championship is at Hard Rock.
Hey, they've been talking about the 6th ring since the refs blew it in 2002 when they called that BS pass interference call.
Also, since you brought up refs blowing it, let's just talk about how the game should have been 20-0 last night.
Fourth down. Yeah, that fourth down.
We can leave that for another day.
I will admit, I think that was a bad call by the refs. That should have been a touchdown early in the third quarter.
His momentum was still.
I agree.
But then the Canes also didn't end up doing anything, and they punted, I think, on that drive.
No, they stalled. But that call completely changed the trajectory of that game.
Yeah, I mean, that momentum never touchdown. I don't really like how long they let Piles go for that reason, because I feel like a lot of times they can't really see the running backs. They're just waiting for the big guys to stop moving before they called it. So, like, I feel like that's what happened, is they saw the trenches stop moving.
That time,
you could see him
the line, and they blew the whistle. They didn't even give him a chance. They just blew that thing right off the bat.
That happened with us versus LSU. They let that pile go on for like 2 minutes.
We had game.
That's like, as a Florida fan, that's one of the reasons I hate playing Georgia, because their offensive linemen push every single pile all game. And so, like,
they're moving,
You should get 5 seconds if that was push time.
Trent, I want to stick with you. If you had to pick one, either Napier has ruined DJ Lagway, or DJ Lagway was a bust from the beginning? If you were to pick one, what would you say in the rapid fire sense?
Well, I think my take from the beginning was that Lagway didn't do a whole lot last year for me to think that he'd be a Heisman contender this year. But that being said, I think it's more on Napier than it is on Lagway. I think it's hard to say it's Lagway's fault at this point. So Napier.
Ryan, has Napier ruined DJ, or was DJ a bust from the beginning?
I think Napier. He doesn't have everything that he needs, like in a format that would be conductive to his success.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I 100% put it on Napier. Last year, DJ averaged I think 10 yards per attempt. And last night it was below 3 yards an attempt, which you never really see. Guy like Damian said, the all 22 guys weren't open. His offensive scheme, it's so predictable. The teams know, and the players come out and say after the game, we knew exactly what they were running before they ran it. Jalen, if you had to pick one, 2030, either Napier ruined DJ or he was a bust from the beginning. Now, there's a chance he could turn around this season, and he could turn around. He's got the tools. But just to this point, would you put more of the blame on Napier or DJ?
So at the beginning, when DJ first came along, I said that DJ will probably win the Heisman his junior year. That's what I was saying. That was kind of like my bold prediction. So I'm definitely going to go with Napier's ruining DJ because one, just the offense that we're running obviously isn't DJ's style. He doesn't feel comfortable with it. And like Ryan said, the communication seems to be non-existent. If the communication is there, the communication shouldn't look like that to everyone else. So I'm going to blame it all on Napier. It's going to be 100%. I refuse to believe DJ would go 12 or 23. He'd only have 60 yards, especially if he was drawing up his own plays. So it's kind of like, hey, it's on the coach. It's on the coach at the end of the day. It's not DJ. 5 interceptions is crazy.
Yeah, Damian, has Napier ruined DJ to this point, or do you think he was a bust from the beginning?
I don't think the kid was a bust. I think last year was indicative of the player I thought he'd be this season because he did all that on one leg as a somewhat fourth quarterback. And so I would say I put it on Napier. My hope is that this kid is still the quarterback at the University of Florida next year. I would hate to see him go somewhere else and turn into the quarterback that I think he's going to be.
It's going to suck to see him in a UM uniform next year.
That would be kind of crazy. I don't think that'll happen just based on what I've heard from his family and things like that. But we never know. We'll see.
We'll hire Mario Cristobal as our offensive line coach. We can do that.
You can't afford it.
I mean,
hey, you broke
We
ass.
can bring a championship to the UF together.
Randy Shannon.
Yeah. I would say I think
That's
Miami's
right.
gonna go CJ Bailey. I think that's gonna be our quarterback going into 2020.
That'd be cool. I mean, I like Bailey,
And
but I mean,
he's from South Florida, but
yeah.
his mechanics are weird. I don't think he's that high level John Napier level standard that Miami's looking for.
Fernando Mendoza.
Columbus.
Hopefully, if he doesn't go number 1 overall this year, he'll be a Cane next year.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't bring him in last year, but hey, Beck's been really good so far. Do you think that they should pull the plug on Napier this season? And if so, who would you like to see them go after?
Thought they should have pulled the plug last season, even with the stretch at the end of last season. That was really all Lagway and the team just playing above their heads really at the end of last season. So in this day and era, you do run the risk of, when you get rid of a coach, your entire roster leaving. But my hopes would be if we can keep the core together, that the next head coach would inherit a talented enough team to, have somewhat immediate success. So I would expect official news to be happening somewhere around after that Texas A&M weekend. If you fire this guy around that time, you're going to reinvigorate the fan base. Who I like to hire, I think that's tough. It's tough because one thing I would say with Florida is that I truly had a belief that if they wanted to, they could poach a sitting power forward coach, but I don't trust the leadership to go that route. Right now, it almost feels like Florida needs a unicorn of a coach. And I don't really know what the answer is for Florida. I just think, I think at this point for myself, I just want to be able to enjoy games again. Winning and losing is whatever, but it's not enjoyable football to watch. It's bad football offensively. So it's can't even really get frustrated because like how can I get frustrated when there's 4 years of the very exact same thing that's going on? So like a lot of fans right now, they're saying like Lane Kiffin. I think that's an attainable guy if they go that route. Honestly, like I think some of the names that may be thrown out, I just don't think they're attainable. So like fans are gonna say, oh, go get Dan Lanning. Florida can't compete financially with Oregon. Fans are gonna say, oh, go try and see if Marcus Freeman is interested. I don't think I would leave Notre Dame for Florida right now in the current position. I just hope that it's not another group of 5 coach. I don't want to see that. I want to see them go get somebody that's an established Power 4 coach. That's what I'm looking for.
So Jalen, you said your thoughts on Napier are intensifying. Do you think that you're now shifting your opinion in terms of you think they need to move on, or you think they should still trust him with the OC hire and keep it moving?
I would force his hand. Kind of like Damien
Okay.
said. I would force his hand and say, hey, like, you have to hire an offensive coordinator, and we need to approve him. Like, it can't be like
Okay.
someone that you think is like good. Because I had a conversation with another Florida fan last night where he was saying, hey, Billy hires all his guys, and then he's kind of letting them either like lounge around or they're not fully locked into what they're doing. Offensive coordinator, we need a brand new face, someone that's going to spark the offense because you're not doing it. And I get you don't want to give up play calling. If I was a head coach, I wouldn't want to give up play calling. So I see where Billy like stands from there. But you're not generating points, guys. So like whatever you're doing, it's not working. You have to be aware enough person to actually say, hey, okay, well, this is not working. I'm gonna get fired if I don't put up points. This is the University of Florida. This shouldn't be acceptable. Yeah. Especially with all the offensive pieces we have, DJ shouldn't be regressing. DJ shouldn't have go from a 5 interception game to not even having 75 yards to we got the bye week, but still the fan base wants you gone. It's starting to look like, hey, you have to go regardless, just because everything that you're saying is going to be the opposite once the season starts. So it's like, hey, either hire offensive coordinator or you got to go.
Yeah. So okay. So you and Damien disagree. Damien thinks they should move on from Napier. You think they should keep him and hire an OC. Always interesting to see within the fan bases how the opinions are spread out. So Trent, if Napier gets fired this year, who should UF hire?
Being realistic, I know that everyone talks about Lanning and Freeman, all these guys. Realistically, they're not going to leave their current school. So I think Lane Kiffin to me would be the one that they poach, if any. I think Kiffin has always flirted with coming to Florida, one of the Florida schools. I think it would be he would leave Ole Miss to go to Florida. I think that's a job that would interest him. So Kiffin is always number one for me with Florida. I can't really think of any off the top. If they hire Urban Meyer, good luck. But I think Kiffin is the number one choice.
Ryan, if Napier gets fired this year, who should UF hire?
I'm going to go a little out of the box here. A name who's been floated around with some other teams, funny enough. I mean, I'd say they'd want to go for like a Jimbo Fisher type of guy. Outside the box.
Are you trolling or are you serious?
I'm about to go, Kim.
Never say never, you know?
Hey, Jimbo did get top 5 recruiting classes, I'll say that. But I think his offense, it's kind of outdated in the current college football world. He had all the talent in the world at Texas A&M, and they would go 6-6. So, Jalen, I know you still think they should continue with Napier and get him to hire an OC, force his hand. But if, let's say, they do fire him, who should UF hire?
With the head coaching questions, I like to trust my head coach, especially because with Florida, there's always rumors of us getting some head coach. Whenever one of our coaches gets on the hot seat, we always have like 1,001 clues for who's going to be the next head coach.
You can't just give one name, like if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, at the top of the list is obviously Lane. I would love Curt Cignetti. I think that will be a phenomenal coach for the Florida Gators. And a name that I've heard of recently, people are saying like Dabo gets fired from Clemson or splits from Clemson, and then he comes to Florida. I wouldn't mind that either. He has a little bit more old school gameplay, but I feel like he could operate with the talent we have, just depending on if we retain the talent that we have.
Damien, I know we talked a little bit earlier. It's kind of a crapshoot with making these hires. A lot of times they don't work out, but sometimes you can hit a jackpot. But if you're Scott Strickland, they give you the green light to make the hire. Who's like the number one name on the board that's a realistic name, not like a Ryan Day or someone that's unreasonable?
Yeah, so I would say
Ryan Day.
I would say hopefully it's a win and not a if. I would say, like, I get it, you don't want to keep recycling head coaches like every 4 years, but
which we do.
You kind of have to at this point. But I would say a name that nobody's really thinking about that I would love to be the head coach of Florida is James Franklin. But I don't know how attainable that is. I do think that he would hear him out at the bare minimum. But I
You
was
don't want James Franklin. You don't want James Franklin, bro.
I like James Franklin.
yeah.
You want to lose big games, you hire Frank.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We just lost the USF, so I don't really but yeah.
He's like 1-12.
I would say after that I would say Lane Kiffin, but I would say with Lane, I don't know how serious he is at all times. Like he does like the whole social media trolling thing and all that stuff like that. I don't know. I think if they come to him with a serious offer, I think he listens, especially with the structure of the Mississippi schools where they can only do like 4-year deals at a time and whatnot. So I think that's an attainable coach for sure.
Listen, if your offense is humming, you're not gonna give two shits about what Lane Kiffin tweets after the game.
That's
I
a
promise.
fact.
I would
That's
say
a promise.
They destroyed Tulane last night, and Tulane is like a good team.
with a D2 quarterback, with a D2 quarterback transfer.
Yeah, with a backup. Chambliss comes in.
Back up.
I mean, dude, that offense is ridiculous. They keep putting up points. Trent, who's the better running back? If you had to pick one, Jaden Baugh or Mark Fletcher, who are you going with?
I do like Ball a lot. I think he's a really good running back. I'm going to go with Fletcher. I think Fletcher is maybe not as fast as Ball, but he's so hard to tackle. He just drives piles. He has been tremendous this year so far, and he actually gets the ball, unlike Ball. So I'm going to go with Mark Fletcher.
Ryan, you going with Fletch as well?
It's hard to be impartial. But yeah, I got to go with my guy.
Jalen, Baugh, or Fletcher?
I gotta go with Ball. I think honestly, I liked Shamar. I liked him. He was
Shamar Brown's great
Brown.
too.
He was
Shamar
nice.
He
Brown.
had a great
Marty
game.
Brown.
Yeah, 2 TDs, I think. But yeah, I still go with the Ball. He's just exceptional
Over the
talent. We're
top.
just not using him in a way because we're trying to rely on him every down.
Yeah. Damien, Baugh, or Fletcher?
That's a tough question. Like Trent said, Fletcher is a load to bring down. I mean, that kid is huge, but I do think Ball does more as a running back, I would say. So I think I lean Ball, but just very slightly.
Okay, the next segment is the rival coach segment. It's one of my favorite segments of the show. So we'll stick with you, Damien. Mario Cristobal and Mike Norvell, for both of them, would you say stay or go?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Separately,
would I
separate
want
answers,
Mario
obviously.
Cristobal to not be the coach of Miami anymore? Sure, but I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. I think he's gonna be there for some time. I
So
do
you say
think
go on Mario, and then for Norvell?
for Norvell, I mean, I would say stay. I think he's coordinators leaving away from being back to who he was.
Mario Cristobal, honestly, I need him to go, and then Mike Norvell, he can stay.
Okay. All right. So Ryan, when you look at Billy Napier and Mike Norvell, stay or go for each one?
Yeah. I like them when they're not good, So let's keep them. I want them, just like that old Florida State shirt I had says, keep Willie Taggart, with the check mark at the bottom. Norvell, he showed something in 2023, but I think that's not the mean. That was like a little bit of an outlier, if I have to be totally honest with it.
So you'd say stay on Norvell.
Yeah, I like him.
Like him there. Keep him there. Trent for Napier and Norvell. Actually, you said 2 weeks ago that you want Norvell to go. So do you still have that same opinion?
For Napier, I got 3 words: stay, stay, stay. For Norvell, yeah, Norvell could go. I think Norvell, after all the success he had in 2023, the lack of success he had in 2024, and the willingness to change and adjust and change, with the play calling coordinators, bringing in Gus, Tony White, and now that team is humming. I think that Norvell has made the necessary changes to be a good CEO head coach. So I'd rather have Norvell leave than stay.
All right, Trent, I want to stick with you. FSU plays Florida every year, Thanksgiving weekend. When you watch that game, who do you usually root for?
Florida State, and it's not even close. And it's not even remotely close. Not only because I went to Florida State, but man, and this is no disrespect to Damon and Jalen, I love you guys. Fuck the University of Florida, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, there is a lot, especially from old time Canes that are still upset about Florida taking Miami off of the schedule. They played every year from 1938 to 1987.
I wish we played every year. It's a great rivalry.
Florida decided in 87 to take Miami off the schedule. and they kept Florida State on there. So I think that boils in with a lot of especially the old time Canes. Ryan, I want to get your take on this. When you watch Florida State and Florida play that Thanksgiving weekend, who do you usually root for in that game?
Florida State.
All right, Jalen, I want to get your take too. I want to get your when you watch
Respectful answer.
like in 2 weeks, Florida State and Miami are gonna play. I think you said last week that you want Florida State to beat the dog shit out of Miami. do you see, if I'm remembering your quote correctly, do you still have that same take?
Yeah, just because I feel like FSU, would appreciate the win more. I usually like to cheer for whoever for that game. I usually like to cheer for whoever's doing the worst of that season. But I mean, they're both kind of in the same realm right now. But yeah, just Miami got to come down a little bit. They got to come down a little bit. So I like Florida State to win.
Damian, who are you gonna be pulling for in 13 days when Miami and Florida State play?
I think this season probably gonna be pulling for Miami just because I got some Florida State buddies I can get some bets in with. But I'm similar to Jalen, where like whoever is the underdog going into that game, I want that team to win so they can ruin the other team's season.
All right, and then
Be a dog fight.
We'll stick with you, Damian. Conference realignment's a big topic. It has been for these last few years. When you look at Florida State, a longtime rival of University of Florida, do you want Florida State and Miami in the SEC, the Big Ten, or left behind?
I mean, honestly, I would say left behind. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know that the SEC is going to be an option, just like ESPN already has that Florida market with the Gators. We'll see. I do think it'll be a different adjustment going into the Big Ten for maybe a year or two. That's just a different type of football. But I don't think either is going to be left behind. So we'll see what shakes out here soon.
But you would like to see both programs left behind. That's your answer.
Left behind, because I mean, from the TV money perspective, that's huge for these universities.
And Jalen, I know you gave your take, but you still think left behind too, right?
Yeah. The SEC is not gonna, and it's crazy because we're going to a 9-game schedule, which is gonna make it even harder. So now there's like really no shot of either of those teams kind of getting into the SEC. I doubt it.
But the Big Ten, like, would you? Okay, so they're not getting the SEC. If they had the option to be in the Big Ten or left behind, would you still say left behind?
I mean, I would like to go to the Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten is probably going to be where they're going to go. So I'm going to say I'll say Big Ten.
Okay. All right. Ryan, what conference do you want Miami to be in 10 years?
I think it'll be the Big Ten. And, that's where I'd want it to be. That's sort of the brand of football that we're playing right now, that style with the big guys up front.
Absolutely.
And geographically, it doesn't make as much sense. The SEC would make more sense geographically, but like we see, as previously mentioned, with the Florida market already having the Gators there in the SEC, I think the Big Ten would be a good fit stylistically and academically as well.
Trent, do you agree with Ryan?
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, if it was up to me, I like the way that the conferences are now. I like the ACC. I like that Florida State and Miami are both in the ACC. We get to play each other every year. I agree with Ryan in the sense that the style of ball we're playing now is more Big Ten than SEC. Honestly, I'll go wherever as long as we get to go with FSU. I want Miami and FSU to be in the same conference no matter where they are. Ideally at the ACC, I think the ACC is a great conference. It has good programs, a lot of historical programs. I know it's not, the big bad SEC, but go ahead.
The money SEC's making with this new TV deal is just way more than they were making before. And it's like almost going to be double the amount of money on a year-to-year basis compared to the ACC schools. So if you look at the span of 10 years, the monies that the schools can make in the SEC, Florida will make, don't quote me on this, but it's about $500 million more than Florida State and Miami in the ACC. It's going to end up looking like the AAC or, one of these other conferences. With that money, they're not going to be able to hire staffs. They're not going to be able to pay players. And so I just think the ACC is, just not going to be an option if the schools still want to be competing for national titles. So with that being said, you still would want Miami to stay in the ACC?
No, I know. I think eventually that just because of financial reasons that it's going to go to a 2-conference system. It's just bound to happen at this point. It's inevitability. But if I could see them going to one conference over the other, it's the Big Ten. I think the SEC is so selective, and I can just see Miami. Miami had been rumored to go to the Big Ten previously. I just think they're a better fit. So I can see them in the Big Ten. Ideally with Florida State. I would really hate if Florida State and Florida were in the same conference and not Miami. Feel like I'd be a little pissed off, like us being left out. But I could see them going to the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think Florida State and Miami end up in the Big Ten as well. Trent, I want to stick with you. What is the worst Miami Hurricanes program loss of your lifetime? If you had to pick one, and it doesn't have to be a rivalry game, just worst loss of your lifetime.
Are you gonna make me pick when there are just so many? It may not be the worst, but it's up there, and it was just such a sinking defeat. Was when Miami had Derek King, and it was the first time they made the ACC championship, and they got
Against
blown out
Clemson.
by Clemson, 56-0 or whatever. That might have been one of the most crushing, because it just, and that's why I'm so hesitant to have this team go undefeated, is because they can have a good team and then they just could get absolutely embarrassed and the true colors are shown, and Clemson absolutely did that to us that year. So it's like my worst nightmare coming true is that we're posers. We were absolutely posers that year because Clemson showed us that. So that's just the one that comes to mind.
Ryan, if you had to pick one worst program loss for Miami, you say of all time.
I'm gonna go with the Fiesta Bowl game against Ohio State.
I was 7, so
Yeah.
I can't talk about it.
I mean, you're talking about 2002, that
Yeah.
game. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to rephrase the question then. Most
Mhm.
embarrassing loss for the program of your lifetime. That's the question.
I got
Well,
my answer.
that would
I
have
got
to
you.
be the last game at the Orange Bowl.
Yep, that would have been my answer.
Okay.
48-0, and they knocked it down shortly after, as they should have, after a performance like that. I was at the game, and that was just pathetic.
I was at the game too. It was
Against Virginia.
like 48-0 against Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you guys didn't pick the FIU game. I thought that would have been the worst loss for Miami. Jalen, looking at the Gators, what would you say is the most embarrassing loss, in program history?
Program history? I'll say it's right after. Was it right after Dan Mullen left? We played Oklahoma in the bowl game, and they like torched us. We had a lot of people out, but it was still like really bad. Like it just was like they just beat the dogs out of us. It wasn't fun. I'll probably say that, or Miami last year. That was really disappointing. So I might give y'all that nod, but one of those two games.
Damian, what would you say is if you had to pick the most embarrassing loss of your lifetime as a fan?
It's a lot to choose from. I would say if I had to pick one, I would go 2013 Georgia Southern. Like, I was at that game. I left that game at halftime. I went home and played 2K because I was like, I see where this is going. They're going to lose this game.
Yeah, I don't think Georgia Southern attempted a pass
They
in
did
that
not
game.
run. They did not throw the ball at all. They ran the ball.
They didn't
entire
throw
game.
one pass. It was just triple option, and I think that was the beginning of the end for that year for Muschamp. After in 2012, he won like 11 games, had a great year.
11-1.
So, Damian, if you had to pick greatest Gator of all time, who would you pick? I gotta assume it's gonna be probably Spurrier or Tebow.
That is a really tough question. I feel like you have to say Tim Tebow, but I think for me it's Percy Harvin. Like, for me personally, Percy Harvin was just, I wanted to be Percy Harvin as a kid.
And Jalen, if you had to pick greatest Gator of all time and then your own personal favorite, like what Damian did, what would you say?
Tim Tebow, greatest Gator of all time. Favorite? Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, man.
Trent, who is the greatest Miami Hurricane of all time? And your favorite Hurricane of all time?
Favorite will always be Shanti. I don't think it's hard to not be in love with that guy and how good he was. I actually think the best ever, even though he only played one season, he was just the most impactful player I think we'll ever see. Scamathy Ward, guy was unbelievable, bro. Cam was the best quarterback that'll ever play for the University of Miami. He was unbelievable, dude. I don't think anybody will ever be better.
Do you think Cam Ward is the greatest Miami Hurricane of all time? Even only playing 1 year.
He had the biggest impact, I think, for sure.
I said that last week.
Got it. I'm interested to
I
get
don't think that's recency bias either.
I'm interested to get Ryan's take, and then I'll give my take as well. But Ryan, if you had to pick greatest Miami Hurricane of all time, who would you pick?
Yeah, there's so many names that you could pick from, but I gotta go with a person who did it, in multiple aspects of the game, and that's gonna be Ed Reed. He'd run back all kinds of interceptions. He'd be blocking punts, running back fumbles. Like he embodies everything about being a Miami Hurricane, on and off the field. So he'd be my number one greatest Cane. My favorite Cane, I'd probably say, is Andre Johnson. Just a
That's a
beast
For sure. For
through and
sure.
through.
That's a great pick. I was looking this up the other day, and I just pulled it up. Ed Reed had 21 career interceptions at Miami. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and his return yards, he returns them all.
Yeah, my opinion. So I think this is kind of maybe controversial, but I think the greatest Hurricane of all time, and it's before our era, but I would say Jim Kelly. And the reason is there was talks about shutting down the Miami Hurricanes program in like the late 70s. And Jim
79.
Kelly came in and turned around the program, and he left it in such a good position when he left after that 82 season, and they go win their first national title in 83. And then my favorite Hurricane is Sean Taylor. I would say the greatest Gator of all time is Steve Spurrier because he won a Heisman Trophy as a player, came back, and he got Florida's first SEC championship as a coach, and he won multiple in the 90s, and then he won their first national title, 96. And then my favorite's probably, I'd say, probably Kyle Pitts. I don't know.
I was gonna change my favorite to Kyle Pitts, low-key. I was thinking that. Thinking about him. Kyle Pitts was phenomenal that season. Honestly, we should have went to the playoffs that season. Not gonna lie.
Just don't pick him in fantasy.
I'd have been offended.
We're still waiting. We're still waiting.
Shots playing right now, actually.
Shots fired. And then the last segment is the most respected rival player on offense and defense. So Jalen, your most respected player is offense and defense for Miami?
I think I said Ed Reed, and I think I said Cam Ward. I know I said Cam Ward.
Okay.
I think Ed Reed. Ed Reed or Sean Taylor.
Damian, who's the most respected Miami Hurricane in your eyes? One offense and one defense.
Defense, I go Ed Reed. Offense is tough. Man, it's tough. Offense, I think I go just shotgun answer. I think I go Clinton Portis. I think I go Clinton Portis.
Trent, most respected Gator, one on offense, one on defense.
Defense, Reggie Nelson.
Dog.
You already said Percy Harvin. I love Percy Harvin. I'm gonna go Chris Rainey. I love Chris Rainey. So I'm gonna go Reggie Nelson and Chris Rainey.
Ryan, as hard as it may be for you to pick most respected Gator of all time, one on offense and one on defense, if you had to pick one, who would you say?
Well, I'm gonna go from the games that I've been to. I went to the 2003 Florida Miami game. I was there in 2013, 2008, and this year. I'm gonna say the one that gave us, the most trouble on offense was Tim Tebow back in, it must have been 08, right?
Yeah.
Although Chris Leak, years before, he threw a nice spiral, but he didn't do as much. He didn't do as much winning. But I liked his game, like his style of play too. But
he did win a natty in 06. But Tebow was coming off the bench, but yeah. But go ahead.
And on defense, I'm gonna have to go with Channing Crowder.
My boy.
Yeah, and away from football, I think everyone loves Udonis Haslem. What he did for the Miami Heat. So, guys, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for joining today. I had a great time. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Sundays.
Safety, y'all.
Thank you. Go Canes.
Yeah, y'all take care. It's basketball.
Belt to ass.
Any downwards views? I don't see any downward.
I would hope not.
Yeah, I'll get the little
schedule.
Lucky our offense though, because that could have been a game. Now it was a game, but that could have been a game.
Our offense was ass.
Man, y'all offense was moving. Y'all offense was moving. Y'all wasn't much better than that.